District School Committee for May 28th to order, and we will stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we'll do introduction of members.
Wendy Greenstein, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Steve Tringali, Millville.
John Wozniak, Blackstone.
Griffin Riley, student representative.
Eric Eisner, student representative.
Georgette Jarrett, Blackstone.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Erin Panaco, Millville, sorry.
Dave Thompson, assistant superintendent.
Alan Himmelberger, superintendent.
Thank you. And our first public forum, I do think we have another one, but if we don't, we can always make one. Is anyone here to? No? Okay. And report of our student representatives.
So clearly the school year is starting to wind down, but one major barrier stopping us was the AP exams, but those have been conquered by our students, and those include literature and composition, U.S. history, computer science, biology, calculus, economics, U.S. government, and a few others included by our school district this year, and many more next year, adding classes such as AP physics, language to accompany literature, chemistry, and a wide variety that can be taken online too. Student council?
So student council, as well as many of the other groups, are starting to wind down. We just elected new student council officers last night, and yeah, basically, like I said, we're starting to wrap up our year and trying to get settled in with that new officer board and get to know each other. Back to Griffin.
And recently, on a different side of things, instead of closing down, we actually started our new year for the National Honor Society with our induction ceremony held at the high school. New members were inducted, seniors are now complete, no more meeting for them, and we had a set of new officers sworn in. NHS also has a bake sale and a car wash planned for early June, so be on the watch for announcements about that. NHS also held 2 appreciation weeks over the course of May and April. Teacher Appreciation Week, which included Duncan for teachers in the morning, personalized notepads which were distributed, a display case, and even a raffle for an electric pencil sharpener, which we all know teachers certainly need. They also celebrated Student Athlete Week with certificates handed out to student athletes, especially those who were especially recognized as student athlete for the team. And we had an Ultimate Frisbee Day, the last 2 periods on a Friday, which was really fun. Grades competed. The seniors ended up winning, but there was a great performance by all grades, and it was really fun for everybody who was there. Certainly a tradition in the making, our 2nd annual. As far as band goes, we're starting up marching band once again. Practices are just beginning. The 3rd this season is tonight. But there are big plans for this year's marching band, which include not only the yearly nationals trip, but a trip to Florida to perform in the Gator Bowl, and also for the kids to go to Universal Studios. That will be this December 31st or January 1st. But we're doing a fundraiser for that on Kickstarter. Information about that can be gotten from any band member, and we've already raised a couple $1,000s. We're making a ton of progress. We're going to be having fundraisers all year, including pizza fundraisers, fundraisers online, such as the Kickstarter one, and certainly be on the lookout, because we're really trying to do a lot this year. Seniors last day.
So actually the seniors last week was the last week, the week of the 18th. We had a spirit week leading up to the 22nd, which was actually their last day. It was basically a progression of the class colors. So when they were freshmen, they bought a white shirt, sophomores yellow, juniors are purple, and then the seniors, they have their senior shirt, which is black. So each day they started, Monday was freshman, Tuesday sophomore, and so on until Friday, which is everybody wore their own class colors. And that Friday we actually held the Brazilian volleyball tournament. There were 16 teams total. We did a bracket style, and of course one of the senior teams reigned victorious. That was a lot of fun. The seniors really enjoyed it as their last day. A few tears shed at the end, but it was a really fun day. And then us as juniors are now enjoying the perks of almost being seniors. We get to eat lunch outside, get to use the front door in the morning, and our senior shirts are coming in soon. We plan to actually have them in the week after graduation, maybe the following week after that, and then back to you.
Scary being seniors. Sports now. It's that time of year where we're getting ready for playoffs or our final games. So far, the tennis team has clinched a bid for districts playoffs, but there hopefully will be a couple other teams in the running. Baseball had a deciding game tonight. Track will move on to qualifier meets where individuals who hit certain times will get to perform in either states or even New England's if they qualify. But all sports are generally wrapping up and will end in the next few weeks. And graduation is coming for seniors. That's a very big day. Practices will be held in the morning in place of school for the students who no longer have to go. Friday, June 5th, will be graduation, where the class of 2015 will move on to become a college class of 2019. School's newspaper will be on the site to publish a report right there, and there will also be a list of the colleges, military, or workforce students will be going to. It's really nice to follow BMR alumni, see their future. Big things lie ahead. Speaking of wonderful achievements, there was a top 10 breakfast and an unsung hero to celebrate 11 students who have really done a lot for that senior class. Connor McNamara, the school's valedictorian for that class, will be making a speech at graduation, along with Addie Katerina, the salutatorian, and final exams.
So our final point is final exams. This week they're underway for seniors. We see them pull in the morning and then leave a few hours later, looking out the windows, knowing next year it'll be us. But for us, underclassmen and juniors, our exams will begin Monday, June 22nd. And that is all we have for tonight.
That was a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions? Comments? Go ahead.
I have one. I'd like to recognize both of our student reps for their work all year long. And I'm thrilled that they're only juniors and back for one more year. And we should let everyone know that great things do happen at BMR. Griffin Riley, first time he took it, got an 800 on his math SATs. So congratulations, not too many students. The perfect score. Yeah.
That's great news.
Yep.
And it's good to hear it. So thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Moving on, consent agenda A, warrants, field trips, the warrants are included. Field trip requests, none. Use of facilities, none. And the minutes of May 13th have been updated with a few missing pieces. So I believe we're looking for a motion to approve consent agenda A.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Wendy, seconded by Jane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. And report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Vanaco. We have a lot to discuss this evening, and I wanted to say thanks to the principals for being here, extending their already long day a little bit longer to discuss handbooks. But first, Mr. Cameron wanted to come before the committee to describe tentative dates for the big capstone trips for next year.
Thank you.
I was hoping Griffin could stay and just do my presentation. He does it so well.
He does.
So we have tentative dates for this year's 5th grade class in Millville and Blackstone coming up to possibly take a trip out to Charleston, Mass. Again, to Nature's Classroom. And this year's 7th grade class, next year's 8th graders to go to Washington, D.C. The dates that were shared with me and the price points that I think make the most sense for our families. Nature's Classroom, potentially October 26th and 27th. And Washington, D.C., I actually have two proposals. One that turns it into possibly a 3-night, 4-day. So we're not so packed and kind of rushed. It certainly is the trip like the family takes to Disney World where you wake up at 6 a.m. and you don't stop moving until 11 to try to get the most out of everything. So there's potential for April 15th, which is we would leave and drive right after school dismisses the Friday before April vacation. And we would arrive to the hotel potentially Friday night around 10 and just actually get a good night's sleep and then wake up and start our touring. Or we could keep it what we've had in prior years and leave very early in the morning that first day of touring, arrive to the city, Washington, D.C., about midday, and then just start the touring after, 6 or 7 hour bus ride. The price points are different, of course, because you're looking at an extra night at a hotel, an extra meal that would be covered by the travel agency. So the price point of the 2-night, 3-day would remain somewhere around between $420 and $450, which is still substantially cheaper than when this trip was first offered a few years ago. The price point of the 3-night, 4-day would be right around probably $480 to maybe $500, although I do see that $500 as kind of a, almost a psychological price point that I would like to stay away if possible. And the price point for the Nature's Classroom trip is going to be right around $130. I was very aggressive in negotiating with them because I wasn't so happy with the price point of this year. So I kind of went out to bid unofficially, and negotiated with them just a little.
What was it this year?
This year it's $150.
And this year you did it later, right?
This year we did it later based upon a survey of the current 6th grade families. And what I found out was every school wants to go after MCAS, so they jacked the prices. The prices are very high after MCAS. So, and that's where we are right now. In fact, we're leaving in, I feel like 72 hours. We're leaving on Monday morning.
So next year, is it the same time that you're leaving, or are you going early?
For Nature's Classroom?
Yeah.
Nope. This year, excuse me, I went out and surveyed the current 6th grade families.
Oh, right.
They felt strongly that, I think there was some hesitance and some anxiety about, the two towns just coming together for the first time, and should we really take them overnight? And, if you go back a couple of years, we went early in September.
Mm-hmm.
So, we kind of swung the total different direction, and that's why this year it's late in the year.
Right.
But after reflecting with the teachers and reflecting upon the goals of this trip, we actually, one of the reasons why we're going is because the two towns are coming together.
Right.
And it's a bonding experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
If there's hesitance and anxiety, even from teachers, I don't know that kid's name yet because it's the second week in September, well, hopefully in being late October, which is a better price point than September and early October, and definitely a better price point than after MCAS. We're also alleviate the anxieties of, we know the kids.
Any other questions? I have a question. How many kids, back over to Washington, how many 8th graders were able to participate this year?
This year, so this year was the first year that we went during April vacation, and that's what we're proposing here for this year as well, which, we're really looking to be sensitive to those families or those students who the trip might not be for them.
Right.
Or, as much as we do raising money for scholarships, it's easier to not go on the trip when you're not reporting to school. To answer your question, I believe we were at 115 students that went to the Washington, D.C. trip.
Which means how many didn't go, about?
Looking at about 25, I believe, 25 or 30. There might be some Nature Classrooms numbers swimming around right now because I'm currently in that mindset, but I'm not too far off with those numbers.
In terms of $50 difference, essentially, from the high end to the high end, or $60 difference from the low ends, how many of those 25 that maybe didn't go do you think was a financial issue?
We did a tremendous amount of outreach.
Yeah.
So if families didn't go because it was a financial reason, they were not comfortable approaching me
Gotcha.
on that.
Yeah.
You know, I do, you know, just personally, because it's obviously a very prideful, confidential thing, you know, I do a tremendous amount of outreaching, and every year I seem to find anywhere between 8 and 10 families who didn't come to me, but I go to them.
Gotcha.
You know, and it's a pretty organic conversation because, you know, it is not a trip for everyone. So, you know, I like to check in with the families. In recent years, it really is the students wander in my office and say, can you call my mom? You know, I really want to go. And if there is a financial reason behind that, then the student doesn't know, which is great. You know, it's a wonderful way to raise a child of this age for them not to know that stressor. But that's a wonderful way to start that conversation. You know, I just want to let you know, she was in my office. You know, if there's anything, I start really big picture. You know, is it hotel security? You know, what is it? And then oftentimes it does get to the finances.
Well, I will share with you that I just recently shared an airplane with 95 students who were coming back from a Washington, D.C. trip to Florida. They fly, they don't take a bus, but the teacher that I sat next to indicated that it would have been so much nicer to fly and get there in the evening and have that evening in the hotel, because they flew, they got there, they started. And they didn't end till 11 o'clock that night after, they started at 3 in the morning to get everybody at the school lot. And same thing that you're talking about.
Yep.
So for the difference that you're looking at, I would like to see you try the 3-night and see if, it makes the trip a little easier for people. I don't know. I mean, I know it adds the expense, but in terms of ease of comfort level and not, hitting the road after that 7-hour, 8-hour, or hitting New York City traffic, 10-hour bus ride.
It was how much this year?
It was $420.
$420. Okay.
Yeah. So the price point pretty much stays the same, which is great.
Yeah.
Usually you don't see that even because we transitioned to another travel agency. And anytime you start with a new vendor, that price is usually rock bottom. So I was very excited where my contact stayed at the same price. And then that's when I inquired, although the chaperones asked me to inquire, about possibly, with the blessing of this committee, looking at a 3-night, 4-day. Because it's tough on the adults, to be on a bus for, 8, 9 hours and then strap on those walking shoes and walk for 10 hours.
So, any other questions for Washington or Nature's Classroom? Otherwise, I think we're looking for a motion to approve the tentative dates. So,
Or just,
You want to do them separately?
Well, you haven't locked in the DC thing yet, right?
Nothing's locked in.
You're still,
Yeah, nothing's locked in.
Juggling
I think
days.
the only group of parents who are asking me about any dates are the current 5th grade parents asking if Nature's Classroom is moving back to the fall.
so we'll look for a motion to approve with the tentative dates, giving you basically the leeway to work it out what's best for, I think.
so moved.
Do you need us to say 2 nights or 3 nights, though? Does that come from us?
Tentative? Doesn't matter. Are you going to present it to them as an option, or are you going to present it as this is a 3-night,
Yeah, I think most of you know my style. I'm going to probably put it out there, do a very quick Google form, really get the pulse on the current 7th grade families and see where they may be leaning.
The tentative dates are
the dates
April
are
vacation and
The beginning
end
of
of
April
October. Is that what you said for
Yep,
Nature's Classroom?
October
So
26th and 27th.
I think we can make a motion to approve it 2 or 3 nights. It's still April vacation, so it's still within that time
or should we
frame.
do them separately? Since, you don't need an answer on DC yet, because you don't have the details yet.
Nope. I suppose the only thing for future vacation planning, especially April vacation, is if I get your blessing to say, next year's trip is going to be the beginning of April vacation, start saving your money. That's the only message I want to give at the end of
Okay,
school
then I would
vacation.
make a motion that we encourage Mr. Cameron to plan Nature's Classroom, October 26th and 27th for 6th graders, and a Washington DC trip at the beginning of April vacation for 8th grade.
Second.
Moved by Jane, seconded by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or nays? No. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. And obviously come back when you got it fine-tuned. Of course. Yeah.
Andy had a good time.
Pick a handbook, any handbook.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cameron. Next, we have some proposed changes for the handbooks. I figured it might be easier if both Mrs. Desai and Mrs. Brown come up together for the elementary, and then certainly Mr. Dudek and Mr. Cameron for the middle school and high school to explain to the committee the proposed changes, which are not lengthy and many, but they are targeted and focused.
I don't usually do.
Good evening.
We just started with updating the list of school officials. On page 2. On page 2. And then we also updated the 2015-2016 school calendar, which is on page 5. And then on page,
If you can go back to page 2, I prefer to be Mrs. instead of Ms.
okay,
Are we? Thank you.
yep, sure.
Any other? And do you want to do Mrs.?
Yeah, I didn't see mine.
It was the very top.
Very top. Yeah, you can do Mrs. for mine as well, please.
Thank you.
Everything else okay?
I'll be different.
Then on page 7, we reviewed the character and citizenship portion and wanted to add more detail, and we reviewed other handbooks from other districts to find what was true for us. So there's a bold section almost at the bottom of the page where it says, school needs rules to ensure that everyone can be free of distraction, fear of discomfort, or learning can take place. And so we outlined what that looks like, honest with words and deeds, and so on and so forth, all the way down with the bulleted portion. And moving along that track, we also decided to put more specific information for parent-school communication and outlined the processes and procedures. I think we always say contact your teacher, but I think if you turn to page 8 at the top, we're encouraging families to initiate contact with the teacher at the first sign of a behavioral concern or difficulty. I think both Mrs. Brown and I have heard feedback from parents more at the end of the year, and something that might have been upsetting for them that went early in the year, and now it's blossomed into something that caused a lot of discomfort and worry. So we really want to encourage families to reach out and start the communication and have a two-way process. And again, it just outlines how you're comfortable with, allow you to share the information, and then what the process is if it's not resolved, then to contact the principal, and how we can reach out. As we all know that the website has all the teachers' emails on there, as well as the school contact information. And we certainly do appreciate the fact that parents feel comfortable enough to reach out to us, but very often, we certainly can't respond immediately to a situation because we know very little about it, and oftentimes there are at least two sides to every story. Right. So when a parent will call with a concern, the very first thing that we say is, well, have you spoken with the teacher? So we're just trying to take steps to encourage that initial conversation, and again, at any point, we're always certainly more than willing to meet to discuss it if parents have any further concerns. Just trying to streamline the process. Encouraging people, because I think it wasn't really listed out in detail in our old handbook, and just so to have parents to giving them that comfort level. Because I'll frequently hear, I don't want to cause a problem, and I don't want to, get anybody upset, and that's not the point. The point is to have that communication, because frequently when we do all talk, everybody's relieved. I mean, the parents are like, oh, I didn't see that part. The teacher would be able to explain something, and, everybody's perspective is different, and sometimes children might remember a portion, not the whole piece, and they don't have that eagle-eye viewpoint. So we just thought to have those kind of details available.
So the purpose of that statement is really to follow the chain of command? Really to go first to the classroom teacher, then if
Yes.
it can't be cleared up, then go to the, has that been hard to follow through without having that in the handbook?
Well, I
We've
guess
had a lot more parents that call you first versus the classroom teacher?
that happens at times, and the thing is, when that happens, my response is, have you talked to the teacher?
Same here.
And as Mrs. Desai said, parents bring a perspective, teacher brings a perspective, student brings a perspective. And so I just think that following that chain of command, if you
Right.
will, just serves to strengthen that bond between parents or guardians and the teacher, which is vital.
And we've taken on our district, when we developed the values of the district, our core values, homeschool communication is a big portion of it. It wasn't really reflected in our student handbook, so.
It just seems to jump
having that
around, though,
two-way.
these paragraphs. Seems to go from contact the teacher, then if that's not contact, then back to contact the teacher. So it seems
Yeah.
like there were paragraphs taken out of maybe other handbooks and kind of placed, but it doesn't flow. Because it starts, if you start on page 8, it says, initiate contact with a classroom teacher, choose a method of communication, and then later on it says email, phone, letter, but that's at the end, that's after the how to make an appointment with the principal.
Okay.
So the dots and the last paragraph have to be melded.
Okay.
Okay.
And the only concern I have with that is that it's in here, in the middle of 64 pages. So I think to further open that subject for parents, that maybe at the beginning, or in the packet that goes home at the beginning of the year, this could be included in there, this page, so it stands out from
Good point.
everything else in here. Especially if you're seeing such a issue with the communication. Not that we don't need these as parents. It's just a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. Okay. Thank you.
Let's see. And then, yes, if you turn to page 25, under Student Behavior Code for School, you'll see a sentence that's bolded. Consistency regarding expectations between home and school is extremely important. And again, that's really just to support that partnership between school and home. Because the consistency is so important. And that we're sending the same message to students.
So what part of it is new?
The bolded
bolded part.
sentence.
Just that
At the
sentence.
very
Yes,
bottom.
right. Again, we're facilitating, fostering that partnership. It's not school and home. We're working together to help meet individualized needs of every student.
And then finally, on page 59, Appendix D was updated to reflect the changes.
Those are the new regulations.
Yeah, the
from
new
DESE.
regulations. This will be reflected in everyone's handbook.
Is on 60 for us.
Page 50,
59.
59?
60 for us.
Okay.
Oh, right before that.
It's Appendix D.
Yeah, that was actually accepted by the school committee in the fall,
Oh,
so we moved it into the document, so it's separate.
Or were you pointing out on 59 the educational services in-home or hospital? That's bold, so.
I think you,
Oh, that's a different. No, that, I think
you might have a
Tyler?
different copy, because on ours it's page 59. There's Appendix C on top.
Yeah, appendix C is on in the middle.
Yeah, for us, and then D is on the next page.
Okay, so
okay.
Appendix D is what we're
General law,
referring
Oh,
to.
right,
Chapter
Appendix D.
71.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Appendix D is Massachusetts state law.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that it?
That's it.
I'm just concerned about the paragraph. I think it just needs to be reworded a little bit in order, because, just to back up Jane's point, the last paragraph talks about, contacting the teacher, but the paragraph above talks about if you wish to discuss it with the principal in person.
Yeah, sure.
So just to follow the chain of command, you know, teacher, I just think there needs to be some order to it.
Sure.
Just so that it makes sense when a parent's reading it, okay, I need to do that first.
Any other questions?
The one thing I'm sort of wrestling with, back on page 7, the thing about character and citizenship. I know in my building, we worked really hard putting PBIS together, and one of the things we never say is what not to do.
Right,
Anything negative. So if you could just maybe phrase all those in a positive way. And I think some are kind of a mixed walk, not run in the building. How about just walk in building at all times? You know, just take away any of the negatives,
Okay.
because I think that kind of reflects the spirit of, again, what to do, what not to do. Respect and not break damage, respect school property, materials, building, grounds, and furnishings. Just take out any of the negative part of it. Respect other students' rights at all times, or something like that, you know. Refrain from inappropriate language, speak appropriately at all times, or something, you know. Know what I mean? Just spin it the other way. Make it a positive, not a negative. Mr. Kim, I think that's what you have with your, you know, the way your building runs. You've got posters on the walls all over, but they're all stated in a positive way. They're not a, you know, do this, not this. It's all what to do, not what not to do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Desai and Mrs. Brown, for another evening out, because we don't see enough of each other. Now I'd like to call on Mr. Cameron and Mr. Dudek, our middle school and high school principals, to share in their proposed changes.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
Can I just share some accomplishments? I know we just mentioned Griffin with I know it's recent with the 800 Club. I don't know if Eric Eisner shared that he was elected president of the Mass Stucco Board. So
Last meeting
mentioned
he
that?
did, yes.
Great. So I think that's another accomplishment when you have 332 high schools in Massachusetts, and he was going back and forth as to whether he wanted to do that, and I'm glad he did. So I thought that was great.
Former middle school Stuco president. All starts here.
So maybe middle school, you want to start?
Sure. Everyone has a copy of the middle school potential changes. We'll start with the honor roll, and just a preface, a little historical preface. This was actually something that I'm on my second school council that is recommending these changes. This was also a survey done of all parents 2 years ago to put forward these changes. The changes in the honor roll reads, the honor roll criteria would be a minimum average of 85 with no grade lower than 80. The high honor roll requirement would be a minimum average of 90 with no grade below 85. Currently, we are just at 85 and 90, not an average of all grades. So the historical preface is this was something that was recommended to be in place for this year. But if you recall, we did not go in front of all of you until the year already started. And we really felt as a faculty and staff it would be problematic to change honor roll criteria when grades are live and in real time. So there's a little historical component there, but this is the second school council that has been assembled here at the middle school that is recommending these changes. And this is the first year, Mr. Dudak and I joked, it took us 3 years, where I think he is also proposing a change at the secondary level, both honor rolls and the criteria would be in sync and not the same. So both schools are actually proposing these changes.
So what brought on the change of saying average versus all grades?
In the middle school?
Both, if it's on the high school, why not?
Yeah, I think honestly, he may echo me when I say, there's a tremendous amount of choices at a middle school to take high achieving classes. But, we do have a population of students that are really driven by, the goal of making honors and high honors. And we see it a little here that they might be less willing to enroll in a high achieving class, a class that might be more, that has more rigor to it, because they're worried that that might result in a grade that might disqualify them from honor roll. I've heard Mr. Dudak share that. Again, I don't see a lot of that here. What I do see, though, is the student that is taking, a very difficult course through, like, virtual middle school, who is tremendously disappointed at getting all 90s in, his or her classes, and then gets an 84 in the virtual middle school class. Then there's that profound sense of disappointment, whereas this new policy would still make that student eligible.
Not for high honors.
Not for high honors, but for honors. Well, I guess it depends on how high those 90s are, because again, the average, you calculate the average.
That would be a grade below 85.
Oh, good point, yes. So it would be an 85, that maybe.
That would be rude if they got an 84.
We would still have the same problem.
We'd have the problem.
Yeah.
I will share that with the high school, for the last 3 years, we've been playing with what is high honors and honor roll, and what criteria should we set. I will say with Justin Cameron that there are some students that take the honor roll, set that as a greater priority for them to make the honor roll than it is to take a higher rigorous course, like an AP course. For us at the high school, we're looking for students to take a higher rigor course and have a schedule that's more rigorous, so that when they're graduating, that they're prepared for the college and real world. And my first year, I did see a significant amount of students who chose not to take an AP English class because they were fearful of not making the honor roll. So we looked at creating an honor roll that was an average-based honor roll, so having a 90 or an 85 average. There was nothing where it was below an 85 and so forth. But what we found out this year was that we had about 52% of our students at the high school make the honor roll. And some of those students were ones that were receiving C's and D's in some of those core classes. But because of all the electives that we have in the 98s that they were achieving, that they were still making the honor roll. So our students felt that it wasn't although they loved the recognition, those that really wanted to set the bar didn't feel that it was fair to have 53% of the entire school making the honor roll. So that's why we decided to go back to that system of having a 90 average with nothing below an 85, and an 85 average with nothing below an 80, in hopes that students and families and community members don't look at the honor roll as the end game, but looking at the rigor of the course loads that students are taking to help prepare for whatever comes when they graduate.
But But this doesn't do that, though. This doesn't do that. This just, I mean, you could still not take the rigor, and, I mean, has anybody ever considered in order, I mean, to make the honor roll, minimum 85, no, nothing below 80, but to make high honors, you have to have
A minimum of one AP
One
or something
or
of that
one
nature versus
rigorous
lowering.
class or one, because I agree with what you're saying, and I think there's merit in that. I mean, if I achieved high honors, I want to know that I took the classes that would designate such, but this doesn't necessarily do that.
I agree with you. I don't know what honor roll system we could create. I mean, we looked at weighted GPAs as another way of looking at this. We were looking at possibly not looking at the level of class, because if we're going to say that students need to take one AP class, there are some kids that won't ever do that. So we're saying that they're never going to make the honor roll. Others say, well, why have an honor roll altogether? So I think these are the conversations that we've had with some parents and students at different councils. We felt that, you know, whether you're taking a CP level class or an AP level class, you know, the culture that we wanted to create was that the honor roll wasn't the highest achievement that you could receive in high school. When we had an AP initiative kickoff, and we had John Smolinski in showing us data in terms of what college admissions counselors are looking at, the honor roll is at the bottom of that list. Class rank is not even there, because you could be a top 10 student and take all CP level classes. It's the rigor and the course load. So I would love to be able to explore something where we acknowledge and recognize students that take a, quote, tier 1 schedule, which would entail taking at least 4 AP level classes by the time that they graduate. That's the process that we're looking to go to with this initiative, but I think it's going to take a little time for students to understand it's the rigor, and you may get into a school, but it's how well you do in college or how well you do in the real world. Or, you know, again, there's so many statistics now that I'm not so much concerned about the amount of students that are getting into a college or university or a certification program. I'm more concerned about how successful they are. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is that kids, on average, it takes 5 years, 6 years to graduate from what we, you know, all went through at some point in 4 years. So that average of completing a college level degree is taking 5, 6 years because of the remedial courses that kids are needing. Again, I don't think there's a happy median to the honor roll. We just felt that this was as fair and consistent as we could be. And again, with Justin, the last 3 years, we've not been on the same page with our honor roll. This year is going to be the first year that we both are. It's been a big topic of discussion.
Well, I do like that, because I think it's important for them to understand it all the years through. So I do like that it's going to be, you know, followed through for the kids. And maybe, I don't know, maybe there could be like a gold high honors with the AP. I mean, but it still leaves high honors there, and, you know, so.
I think that'd be a total separate list. Maybe these students achieved a 5 on their AP exams. That might be totally separate from, you know, honor roll. Sure.
Along those same lines, you know, we now have the grant. It's a 3-year grant, and if you listen to John Smolinski and the folks from the Math Science Initiative, which, by the way, in very tough budget times, that money has been still allocated within the state budget. It is so critical for us to raise the bar. It is no longer good enough to be just good enough.
Yep.
And we have to get the points across both to students as they come out of elementary school and start prepping through middle school. We can get pre-AP counseling and help to increase our vertical alignment. We have to make sure that parents listen to more college admissions directors. Let them know that your child will be better off, your student will be far better served if they take the most rigorous course selection that they can. And I think, to Mrs. Reggio's point, that would be great, and to Mr. Tringali, to be able to do that. I think we're a year away because we're just now getting students acclimated to the fact that, you know what, maybe I don't think of myself as an AP student, but I might see a course that is interesting to me and I'm going to try it out, because it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't maintain and preserve a GPA or a class rank, but I look better in the eyes of every successful higher education institution if I have that rigor behind me. And I think that's what we're trying to do. And I think with a year under our belts of increasing our AP offerings, that we can certainly entertain that going forward. But I think it's a huge paradigm shift even over the last 10 years in terms of what students need. We've seen, not just in our district, but across the country, students taking longer because they need remedial courses, because they haven't been, given the proper or the up-to-date direction, I should say. And it's no longer just okay to graduate, get your diploma. There's going to be that job waiting for me. That's a 40-hour-a-week job that I can live the American dream, buy a house, raise a family. No, it's going to have to be a lot more to that. Not necessarily, 7 years of graduate work in higher ed, but there has to be that mindset that this will prepare students for whatever they want to do, college, career, to give them the most options when they leave us. So I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Is that the only change?
That was point one.
Put it right up.
Oh.
Just very quickly going through the middle school. So just a statement on page 6 of our handbook about cell phones and other pieces of equipment. The boldface recognizes the difference or the added words. The school assumes no responsibility for lost equipment. Cell phone usage, all phones, this is what we're looking to add, may be used prior to the start of the school day and at the end of the school day. All improper uses stated above will incur disciplinary code penalties. We just, at the middle school level, I think due to our active nature and how things change, clubs, you name it, we've seen a tremendous amount of students come into the office asking to use our phones before school starts and certainly after school ends. And with proper supervision, if it's outside the school day, we felt it was very appropriate for students to be using their devices.
On the second bullet, under an understanding that the student, it says most of the time students should not be accessing a browser or an internet on their personal device unless a teacher has explicitly given permission. Should that most of the time be taken out?
Where are you? What page are you on?
6?
So you're just
on
you're
six?
one up.
Second bullet.
We're still on the
We're still on the first page.
first
Oh,
page.
I was looking at,
No, I think you might.
You're kind of
You
in
still in the
both.
middle school?
yeah, I was
With you.
right under, you're
Yeah.
with me, right?
You just-
Okay, I'm not.
She went up
We're
one
just looking at the
paragraph.
changes, you look at the full
You're on
page.
cell
Yeah,
phone.
she's looking at the full page.
Yeah. Although, can you read that sentence again? I'm
It's
sorry.
the second bullet, and it's right after the first bold. It says, most of the time, students, and then you have bold, should not be accessing a browser or on the internet on a personal device unless a teacher has explicitly given permission. This includes, so, most of the time, and then says, most of the time should not be accessing this. I'm thinking most of the time should be taken out, because it's a very broad statement.
But they said most time unless the teacher has explicit, which there's a lot of formative assessment things
Gray,
you can
that
use with your
it
phone
just
and
makes it
things
to
like
be a
that.
gray area, whereas it's just, students should not be accessing a browser or the internet unless the teacher has explicitly given permission.
This is how it's currently worded, right? That's not a change?
That's not a change.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it could still be, you're right.
It could
Well,
still be
the
cleaned
word-
up.
Maybe the gray
but
area
yeah.
is there on purpose, on purpose.
Because once you put in that bold that is changed,
Right.
it just kind of makes it not worthy, you know, like the teacher has to give permission for them to access the browser. And then you say most of the time, so. Just thinking most
How
of
about
the
you
time.
just knocked off most of the time and just started
Right,
with
that's it.
students should not be.
Correct,
Yeah. Unless, da-da-da.
right.
Because, yeah, you're going to see that more and more in the next couple of years. Kids are going to be using their phones. I mean, you know that.
And they'll pull this out and say.
It
"But
says
the
most
time."
of, so what is most of the time? So
Right.
just take out most of the time, there's no gray
Unless
area.
a teacher has given
Right.
permission. Yeah, there's your hook right there.
We found, you know, last year's school council went through the entire handbook very verbose, you know, and just being succinct, you know, even this honor roll language, you know, 2 weeks ago, it was like a short paragraph each. It was just, let's just make it very succinct. So. Page 14, under athletic extracurricular activities, there are a few middle school-only teams, and the MIAA
Yep.
has a middle school athletic handbook that most middle schools acquiesce to. So we're looking to adopt their language again just for the middle school teams. Currently, the middle school teams are cross-country in the fall and girls and boys basketball in the winter. So these are strictly just middle school teams, and again, I underscore that because anytime one of our student athletes at the middle school connects with BMR athletics and is on a JV team, even though that student athlete may be a 7th or an 8th grader, they're under MIAA and not under this. So I wanted to clarify that. And then the assistant principal has shared with me that I'm not quite sure what pages they are in the handbook, but we have about 3 pages of a grid that makes everything, you know, kind of friendly to the eye. And she just wanted some things that were already in our handbook, some of the consequences that were already, you know, outlined and shared, but just added to the grid. So there is actually, this isn't anything new, it's just a different format of looking at it, except for we have added powdered alcohol, e-cigarettes, and liquid for that e-cigarettes. We did add that. And that is the middle school.
Any questions or comments? We asked as we went along, I think.
So if we're looking at the high school, I'm hoping that you have the revisions and also the revised handbook as well. Is that what you all have?
We have
Okay, so you have the revised handbook, and you also have, hopefully, the revisions? No? Okay. Well, I'll look at, I could probably give you the page numbers in terms of what was updated. We're looking at page 7. So obviously, there's an updated school calendar that will come up. We have an updated mission, so if you're looking at page 7, I hope that's what you have. I just changed a few words in there.
That's not our page.
That's not our page.
It's on 8.
On 8, okay.
Format.
My apologies, I
okay.
thought you had the revisions as well. But, so the updated mission and vision, I just changed our core values to be CARP, so it's community, academic excellence, responsibility, and personal responsibility. It wasn't that prior. It's just an easier way of remembering that.
be a fish.
To be a fish, or carpe diem, you know, there's these mnemonic things that for me help me, so I changed that in there. We updated our school committee and administration. I believe it's maybe on page 9 now. So that's in there. We also added, we have our school-wide rubrics. So this may be on page 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You're sort of looking at it from a horizontal standpoint. So these are our school-wide rubrics that we've developed, voted on, edited, and have adopted for this year. it creates something for our school where students and teachers know and understand what the expectations are. So there are some academic expectations, whether it's communication, literacy, the technology component, but there's also a civic and social piece as well. So we've had that, and I just wanted to add that so that's when students are carrying their handbook, it's something that they could refer to. Looking at the next page, I'm hoping maybe 19 is general testing program. This is looking at our MCAS and PSATs. Do you see that? Okay. So again, this is part of the AP initiative. This is part of gathering more data for us to understand and know and understand what our students are doing. The old writing was that MCAS tests are in March, April, May, and June. PSATs are given in October. The deletion is it was recommended for high-achieving students. We're going to add that all students as sophomores will be taking the PSATs. Currently, it's just our high-achieving students. It's an option. We want all students in their 10th grade year to take PSATs so that we can use that data to look at, are they AP ready? Are they college ready? Are they career ready? We get wonderful data from College Board to help prove from an objective standpoint where our kids are and where they need to go. So that's something that we are looking to add.
For grade 10, you're looking to add PSATs are given in October for all students, and then take out the grade 11 PSATs?
No, so we're going to still keep the 11th grade. So the original writing, which I wish you had, was that it was the PSATs were given in April, but were recommended for high-achieving students only. The addition, and which I think you have now, is that it's for all students. So all students in grade 10 will be taking MCAS.
And it says October.
In October. Yes. And this is an in-school, we do this in school, and we're paying for the PSATs for all students to take. Now, in the 11th grade year, the original writing was that interested students, the original writing was that college prep students would be taking PSATs in the 11th grade. We're looking to have any interested students that notify guidance department that they are looking to take the PSATs in October to do so. So there's this added component that we're not just looking at our high honors or honors high achieving students to take PSATs. We want all students in 10th grade to take it. And in 11th grade, we want anyone who's interested in taking it for the second time to do that as well. So that is the general testing program. Page 23, when we're looking at our high honors, it's the same exact piece that the middle school is doing. We currently had a minimum average of 90%. We're changing that to a minimum average of 90 with no grade below an 85. Again, our concern was that students were still receiving the 90 average, but achieving grades in the 70s in their core classes due to some of the electives that they were taking. So the addition is that minimum average of 90 with no more than one grade below 90, no grade below 85.
Doesn't say that.
You don't, that's not what's in.
It's on 22.
22?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The next big piece that we were looking at is attendance, possibly page 28.
29.
Okay, actually, let's go before that. Page 25. This is grade and attendance standards. Okay, so you don't have the original, but in our original, the course average, again, this was something that we looked at last year to increase our attendance records,
26.
to increase achievement.
How about 26?
26? Okay. To increase attendance, to increase achievement, and to also increase our behaviors with our students. So this year we went with a course average of a 90 or above with 5 days absent and no disciplinary action. If you achieve that, then you were exempt from a final exam. 85 to an 89 if you achieve that in a course, but you were absent no more than 4 days, then you were exempt from an exam. And then we also had the 80 to an 84, but you couldn't miss more than 3 days of school, and you had to have a clean disciplinary record. We changed and deleted the 80 to an 84 with 3 days absent. I will tell you that this new initiative has increased the attendance rate. I can't tell you what it is right now because we're in the middle of the fourth quarter. But Maureen Tessier in guidance has explained to me that we have fewer students that are taking the final exams, students that are more concerned about their attendance records, and students that are achieving higher in their courses than what they were prior. The concern with some of the teachers and students was that the 80 to an 84, that academic piece, they didn't feel that it was high enough to be exempt from a final. So I eliminated the 80 to an 84 and the 3 days absent. So in order to be exempt from a final exam, you needed to achieve at least an 85. But that absent or attendance piece was there, which to me is really important. So missing 4 days in the second semester, I think is great. And we're seeing that attendance record improve, but I don't have stats to prove that. I just know from guidance that that's something that has increased, and we like to still stay with that. Any questions on that one? Okay. So page 28 on attendance. Again,
29.
what originally was in there were just paragraphs upon paragraphs. There were a lot of things that were in there that kids and parents were missing. So I tried to create something that was an easier format to read. So when you look at what you have, I added some key points that are bullet points, and then I added individual responsibilities for students, also parents and guardians. The one difference that you'll find that I'm going to stress a little bit is when you look further down the line on dismissals. Dismissals were, for a better word, I was concerned about the safety and well-being of our students. Our school secretary was getting a lot of phone calls, emails from parents or supposed parents to dismiss their kids from school. We found out that some of our students that were being dismissed by their parents by way of email were not by their parents. It was actually someone that would create an email account for their parent, and then they would send it to Linda Salome, who would find it, would see it, and dismiss their junior or senior or sophomore, and they would leave for the day. For me as a principal, I'm extremely concerned about the safety and well-being. Once students leave the building, I'm not sure where they're going, and for a parent, I'm assuming that parents want to know where their kids are when they drop them off during school, or if they're expecting that they're there till 2 o'clock. So the big concern for us, or change, or something that we're going to really stress, is that if students are going to be dismissed from school, we are looking for a parent notification, a written notification with a phone number on that, handed to the office prior to first period, so that someone in the office can call and verify that there is a dismissal. 2, we can give a pass to that student during homeroom period, so that there isn't a distraction towards a learning environment, and calling somebody out of class, giving them a pass, having them go back to class and then come back, but also just being able to validate our notes. And if students need to be dismissed for whatever reason without a parent notification, we would ask that parents come in so that we know that, in fact, who we're talking to on the phone is a parent, or the email that we're receiving is from a parent. Because unfortunately, there are some parents or guardians that do come in or do call, and we can't verify who's on that end of the internet or the phone call. And there are some restrictions when it comes to adults picking up their kids. So that, to us, is a big thing that we're looking to take into play for next year. But we just feel that's something that's really important. And I guess you live and you learn sometimes, and we were conned a few times with some kids that were dismissing themselves from emails that parents had no idea it was happening. And luckily, for safety and well-being, they were okay. That's our biggest priority. So that is dismissals. Now, obviously, if there's an emergency and kids need to be dismissed, and a parent can't come in for whatever reason, we would leave that up to administration to decide whether or not we would dismiss students at that point. But again, I think you need to realize from our standpoint the liability behind that, but also realize Linda Salome isn't always at her computer or in the office at all times. So when we do have people that are covering that email that may go to Linda Salome, and when she's not there, we can't verify. So it puts us in a sticky situation. So if we know with verification in the morning, I think that's a better place for all of us. So that was the discipline, or the dismissal. I did add skip day. If you look further down under college visitations and incompletes, there was nothing in our handbook about senior skip day. I will say that it's not a right or a privilege for seniors to be able to skip or bunk. We don't count it as an excused absence. If students choose to do so, they do so. But again, at the end of the day, we're looking at the safety and well-being of our students that are leaving the building. So if parents do call in and say, my son or daughter is, quote, sick, we take it as that, and we verify it. But again, I just wanted to stress that it isn't something that we create as an acceptable way of having kids just leave for the day and it's going to be excused. We just wanted to add that in there. Page 41. Again, this is just things that are dated and personal electronic devices. It's the original writing says the use of CD players and MP3 players, iPods, and so forth. I don't know who listens to a CD player anymore, so we eliminated, quote, CD player. What about 8-track? Somebody, you listen to your CD player? You still have that?
No,
Going on?
8-track
No.
only.
There's one other, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what page the dress code violations are on. I'm sorry.
It's actually right before.
So it's right before that. Okay.
Yeah.
So dress code violations. Again, I just changed to the formatting to make it a little easier for students, parents to be able to read. There were certain things in there that we felt were too specific when it came to dress code. There's also something called sneakers with wheels on them. I don't think I have to worry about that at the high school, so I eliminated that. If I have to put that in because the superintendent's rolling around the hallways in rollerblades, then I'll put it back in. But that's not something that we're concerned about. There were things about, I kept it general in terms of skirts, shorts, dresses, because I think it's a different style. I think it's really to the discretion of teachers as well as administrators and parents and students to what is appropriate length. So I put it as appropriate length rather than.
Except you said shirts instead of skirts. I think you mentioned skirts.
Okay.
Because
So
shirts
it's supposed to be
must
skirts.
appropriate in length too, I guess.
Okay, so it is skirts. So
It's skirts and
prefer
shirts
both
these
of them to be
days.
appropriate.
You might as well just leave it.
yeah.
Shirts and
But there
skirts.
was.
Cover it all.
I mean, the verbiage in there was just, I thought, too specific. There were certain things like, there were 3 inches from the inseam, or 4 inches above the knee. And if I truly followed the verbiage that was in our handbook, none of our female students would be following the dress code policy. So we look at it as what's appropriate and what isn't. And if it's not appropriate, and that's a discussion again with administration, then we would ask that students correct their behavior and find something that we feel is appropriate. I did have a student who said to me when she read the description, it was too female dominated in terms of the language. So I tried to make it as, and it still may, but I think it's a little more gender neutral. There are things in there with male, or the culture of having males wear their pants below their hips or below that and showing their underpants, so I did add that in there. But again, the formatting, I just wanted to create something that was a little more reader-friendly. And those are the major pieces in our revisions for the high school handbook. And again, I apologize that you don't have the revision sheet. You have just the revised copy of the handbook.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Dudek and Mr. Cameron, and to all of our principals.
Have a great night.
Thank you
John
very
and
much.
Tara, welcome.
Thank you.
New members, thanks.
Moving along, we do have a request for the committee to approve the transfer from the agency account to the student activities account. This is something that we've done throughout the year as a matter of course. We have the documentation for $25,377.17 based upon Mass General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 47. I would simply ask for the committee's approval and to transfer the money and then their signature.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to allow the transfer. Does someone want?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jane, seconded by Steve. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? It is unanimous.
Thank you. As many people know, the school budget is made up of a lot of different sources of funding, and along with local contributions and assessments, there is state funding through Chapter 70, and there are some other forms of funding at many levels around grants. And included in your packet is the record of the grants that we received this year. It's a single page right after that shows the titles and numbers of our grants that we have received. The one that obviously has had lots of attention is the full-day kindergarten grant, which the state is, looks like not going to include in its budget, so that will go away. We're still waiting to hear on our federal money for the upcoming year around the large special ed grant, the Title I grant, 2A. Race to the Top will be all done finally, and then our early ed and care grant, our preschool learning, early childhood academic support, our sped improvement grant, those all are forthcoming. But this is a record of what we have received. We also did receive the Blackstone Valley Educational Foundation, and we have had small grants over the years from both the Blackstone and the Millville cultural councils, primarily to the middle school. But the federal government is revising how grants will be tracked and allocated this year. Special ed directors, business managers, finance directors, assistant superintendents went down to the conference for the Massachusetts Association of School Business Officials because the changes will be so impactful on how money is drawn down and how often that will come to us. This seems to be every few years a revision. But the total here, as you can see, this year was $811,000, $643. It's a significant portion. Along with this, we also get reimbursed on regional transportation. we get circuit breaker, we have income from Medicare, Medicaid, and we also see tuitions in as well as building use. So there's lots of ways and wherefalls where we get funding, but there is additional funding over and above, and certainly all of this is on the Department of Ed's website. All districts now since 2007 report a very standard set of data points, and so I just wanted to let the committee know that we do have these sources of funds. Federal funding will not expand. We also do get our school nutrition program receives federal dollars as well. There are, it doesn't appear that we're going to receive tremendous opportunities for federal funds in the upcoming year. We already know that the state budget will not be keeping pace, but at least there is a heightened awareness that it's not keeping pace with what districts need. We have projected conservatively in all of our calculations so that if we do receive additional funding, we will have a pleasant problem to solve rather than have over-projected and get final numbers from the state or federal government that are less than we projected. So, but that's a snapshot of where we are on funding.
So the total of grants is $811,643.
For this current year, yes.
For this current year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's important to share with community members too,
Yep.
is the
Yep.
amount that we chase
Right.
is not pennies. It's a lot of money, and we definitely need, you know, that support chasing those grants because it's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's interesting because the state, through the feds and the state through the state allocation system, there's over 100 different grants that public districts can apply for. Some of them are allocation grants that meet requirements such as the SPED Big Grant as well as the Title I grant, but there's a lot of grants that are targeted that you have to meet specific criteria, and in most cases, we do not. And, you know, so for the 10 to 15 grants that most districts do get, that's the available monies that are there. There are additional funding, and I think sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, hopefully getting through state and state associations the opportunities that exist there, whether it's a Homeland Security grant that was out a few years ago, where there are other sources that we can go after. But typically, we're not urban enough, we're not rural enough, we're not poor enough, we're not all those things to be able to qualify for some of the other sources. But as Mrs. Greenstein says, $811,000 goes a long way towards offsetting the total use that we need, and we're all in. I guess that's a good segue to FY16. We're all in on our ability to offer the funding necessary for the upcoming year. The school committee's budget of $22,366,340 after both town meetings is going to come in at $21,791,301. And I do want to say thank you to the finance committees in Millville and in Blackstone, the boards of selectmen, the directors. I have been well received by all of the town boards, and I have made myself available and will continue to make myself available so that we can continue to improve the perception that we need more money and to be able to substantiate the reasons why and where it needs to go. But I do want to thank the towns, I want to thank the taxpayers and voters for where we are, and that's a 2.2% increase, which is the second largest increase we have received in the last 7 years. So we are moving in the right direction. I think all town boards and committees understand that we do need more funding, and are sympathetic to it, and I think next year will be better for a couple of reasons. One, I will have a little better knowledge of the nuts and bolts of what makes us go here at Blackstone and Millville, but also the fact that the state's governor's budget will be out at the end of January, that we will be able to meet starting in October with our finance committees and with our boards is important, so that everybody gets the information. I think this year, I know that there has been criticism in the past that we gave different numbers, that they always changed. Well, this year, thanks to the committee's work early, those numbers were fixed. They stayed the same. They were easy to deal with. And, this year I'm very proud of the fact that we did not have to lay off a single position due to budget concerns. We did not have to non-renew all of our non-professional staff because of that contract liability. So the fact that we didn't have to affect last year over 60 employees, 25% of our force, is a huge step forward, and the towns deserve the credit for getting us there. We're not where we need to be, which was 4.9% of an increase, but we're at 2.2, which, as I said, is the second largest increase we've received in our general fund budget over the last 7 years. And in 4 of those 6 years, we had a negative number, meaning that our budgets did not meet the prior year's budgeting in 4 of those 6 years. So we are moving in the right direction. I will again make the offer to anybody, and more people are taking me up on it, to email me with questions, call me, come in and see me. Dr. Thompson and myself will be happy to take folks through it. And I think that our staff has appreciated the consistency that we have afforded by this process. And here we are, May 28th, not June 30th. And so we will continue to as I told the central office staff, we're going to run it like it's our own checkbooks. This year we have to, because we are so tight in our funding. We don't have the ability to have the reserves in place, and so we have to be very zealous in watching every penny, and we will continue to do that. I think that we have gotten to the budgeted amount that the towns have voted because of the fact that we have allocated resources from accounts that we ordinarily would not do. It is not sound practice to commit every penny in your circuit breaker account, because that is there for the unforeseen expenditures that happen, that school budgets are. They're volatile as you go through the year for so many reasons. And so we are in a less than perfect place. I wouldn't say quite precarious, but we're certainly in a less than perfect spot as we turn the calendar into July 1st and the next fiscal year. But it is with cooperation that we get every single day from all 281 of us that work for your students, that we are careful with where we spend it, how we spend it, and analyze what we are spending. And as I say, it's been a huge learning curve this year. Next year, I expect will be maybe more efficient, and certainly have more information out earlier, which will allow everybody to have a chance to weigh in. But I can't thank this committee enough for their support and for their work, and that's the only way we're going to continue to improve. And there's a lot of good things, as you heard from our principals, there's a lot of good things that happen in this district. And sometimes we tend to run roughshod over those right for the problem, right for the emergency. But there's an awful lot of good stuff that goes on here. Are we perfect? No. We have 1,800 students over 180 days that interact with staff 50 to 60 times. If you count homerooms and all your classes, your food service, for lunch, bus, everything, that's many millions of interactions in the course of a year. Mathematics says not every one of those is going to be to the student's expectation, to the parent's expectation, or to staff's expectation. But if all three parties work together, we can continually improve that and build on it. And that's the mission for us going into next year. And I think that that's certainly, when we look back on all that we have accomplished this year, it is a considerable change and move in the right direction. And I couldn't be happier with the cooperation that I get from everybody on a daily basis, and certainly from the boards and the committees. As you also have in your packet is a copy of the budget detail, and I'm still learning that Budget Sense requires all of the line items to be changed way too early in the cycle, and then you can't go in and change them. That's for the software engineers to figure out that we aren't quite there yet. So tomorrow I have to make the final changes on the line item details. We certainly can make the adjustments on our higher level accounting. So and again, this represents an awful lot of work by everybody over 4 months of intense meetings. We met with every board and committee more than once, and it was a lot of work. There are a couple of, well, certainly one big change that I wanted to ask the committee's blessing on. We had a late resignation from one of our staff, and it is a grade 5 position. Because grade 5 is relatively small class sizes, and because next year's grade 5, this year's grade 4 coming up is a 4-section grade, we feel that we can not fill that position because we are so desperate for so many things that we have been forced to reduce over the last several years. But the most pressing one that both Dave and I look at is our ELL population. Many of you have probably seen what has happened in Milford, and most of their 4%, or almost 4% budget increase went to being able to meet the requirements of the law around English language learners. So we have the need for another full-time teacher. There will be some additional funds that will be able to slide to the bottom line, but to not replace that position in the 5th grade and to be able to have another ELL teacher, we feel is critical to our students, our testing, our district, and so I would ask for the committee to approve that, because then we do not have to reduce positions, we don't have to lose good people and then have to reload and recalibrate over the summer. So I'm very happy that we've been able to get this far, but that's the last change, and it's a late-breaking change that I would like to adjust. Doesn't change the total budget at all. We are living with $21,791,000.
How many ELL students do we have?
59 at the last.
And growing.
And it's been exponential since the first of the year.
It's been a steady rise the entire year.
Yeah.
Is that a short-term solution, though? Because your 4th grade currently is a smaller group, so to do that, do we then need to make that a priority in the FY16 budget to put back that 5th grade classroom, or are they all getting smaller?
In next year's
Right.
4th grade that comes into 5th, it's still a 4-section, so we would be okay for 2 years. For 16 and 17, we'd be okay. I know that the committee is working very, very hard on talking about regional agreement and the changes that might bring in that 2-year window. The landscape might look different, and I think we still have to stay flexible in terms of what that could look like.
But it's potential 2 years, so we've got some.
We would have, yes, the next 2 years we would be okay, and I feel that we wouldn't be compromising our delivery of education for everybody.
And what do we currently have for ELL staff?
We have one person, one teacher.
1.0.
1.0.
So this would go to 2. So what would that overall program look like then?
Would they be split? I'm just concerned about the amount of travel time.
I think the way we have anticipated it is that one teacher would be based at the complex where the large majority of students are, and one teacher would be based at the middle school where the second largest current enrollment is. There would be minimal to almost non-existent travel at the high school unless there was specific folks who have moved in. There would be a little bit, but there's only, I believe, a couple of students at MES. So the large majority of our ELL population is clustered at the complex and at the middle school.
So that'll be their home base, so.
Yes.
So they'll be at that middddle school, and they'll be at the complex daily.
Yes,
Does that
exactly.
potentially save us any money on ELL tutoring
Tutors?
that we?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
And at the same time, you have teachers going through the ELL training, right?
Yes, that, as many of us know, the state is still trying to get the left to talk to the right to match up to the middle. It is still a work in progress, but yes, we do have staff that have completed the training and more that will be completing the training. You talk about unfunded mandates, boy, that's a pretty good advertisement for one. So I think that is important. And again, as I was talking with Mrs. Vanaco as we set the agenda, a school budget, the reason why you only vote one number in a school budget is because it's impossible to forecast between salaries and expenses and all of the things that come and go in the course of a short period of time, which puts a lot of accountability on central office, on the leadership team, on all of us to make sure that we know where we are. And as things come up and become important, we have to be able to respond to it. And a lot of times as you move through the year, when something becomes so much of a priority, you're going to have the flexibility maybe to postpone spending here to meet that demand or to meet that requirement. And sometimes when that requirement ebbs, then you can go back and see what the next allocation should be. But it's a process that almost takes a daily set of eyeballs on over 1,000 lines of the budget to make sure that we're trying to meet. And again, are we perfect? No. But we're moving in the right direction so that we can be as perfect as we possibly can.
And what will that bring the class sizes to for grade 5?
It will go from an average of 19, 20 to probably 24 for 1 year, and then it will drop back in the second year.
But that's very comparable to what Millville's 5th grade is.
Mm-hmm.
Will be.
Well,
I'm getting
again,
25
Will
next
be.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are fortunate, we are very fortunate in our district because we have been able to preserve some
size.
better than average class sizes almost across the whole spectrum. And I think, that's something that we can't take for granted. And again, in the 80s and 90s and even the early part of this century, the barometer was what's the class size? Well, if I have low class size, then anybody can do anything. Well, that's not been proven to be the case. It used to be, well, how many building transitions does the child make? If he's in 6 different buildings, oh my God, he's never going to learn, or she cannot do the work. Well, those have now been dispelled, and the two bigger predictors of student achievement is the caliber of the instructor, the teacher, the instruction. You could teach 50 in the parking lot if you've got a dynamic teacher. And and then the other predictor obviously is the economic level of our families. And not to say that students with less can't do more, but it's a lot harder. It's more difficult, more challenging to do that. Those are the big predictors. So I think, we have been very fortunate to be able to stay where we are. I think to the committee's credit again, attacking, even starting that dialogue around the regional agreement looms to be important for the future, along with renovating and modernizing our high school and John F. Kennedy School. So those are key pieces down the road if we're going to look forward in that 3-year plan that you will receive from Dave and I, by the end of July. So,
So do you need us to motion?
well, I think
that
it would be
renewal?
important for the committee to show the agreement that we would take that position, not changing the budget, not changing the total FTEs, but move that 1.0 from an elementary position to ELL for this coming year. And then, as things change, we always give each other the information, and that's the only way we can do it.
So moved.
Are we doing a motion, or are we
Well,
just saying
so
you
a
have our
motion
blessing?
to what? A motion to,
Move the 1.0 FTE from classroom to ELL teacher.
Okay, is there a second?
second?
Moved by Jane, seconded by Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Unanimous.
And I think that as we go forward, the budgeting will be, I'm not gonna say it's easier, because it never gets easy, but it will be more forthright, because we'll have a much better understanding of, I mean, it took me a year to get my arms around where we have been. And I think that going forward, we have tremendous opportunity. We have a lot of good that happens in our schools and in this district. And we need to be proud of that and work on the areas that need the improvement. And we are identifying them. Dr. Thompson, the leadership team are identifying that. We have it in our district improvement plan, and that's the mission to I think the one thing that I need to do a better job of, if I'm going to be self-critical here for a minute, is to be able to do the outreach that you guys get, that this committee gets, to more parents, more staff. I'm going to try and meet with all staff voluntarily Monday and Tuesday to give them the budget update. So everyone knows they don't have to run out and get letters of recommendation now, because the staff will be intact. And to be able to have that continuity is huge for our own morale and planning, as well as our students, to have the same faces that they can count on semester after semester. So
at next meeting, June 11th, we do need to recertify our budget to 21,791,300.
yes, and I'll have the final detail inputted tomorrow.
Okay.
So you'll have that.
If you could have Bridget prepare that motion, so we can, because we have to lower our budget
Yep.
based on the town meeting.
At June 11th, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And are the things here on this FY16 what we're definitely going to move forward with for the reductions? Is that with that 575?
Yes, that 575, unfortunately, is the difference between what the committee voted to adopt in March and what the towns have been able to give us. So we did get an increase. It was 2.2. It was second biggest in 7 years. That's very good, and I applaud the towns and the voters for doing that. But we do need a couple of years of sustained growth around that. And I think getting that information out, starting in October, to some folks who may be skeptical of what we are doing, I think is important. And I think that's something that I have to find the time to do on a more regular, frequent basis. So, thank you. Last item under my report is a discussion on transportation. And again, this is framed in the context of working, we are currently looking at every single route based upon our enrollment and projected enrollment, and I believe that we have some savings there, and we're going to construct that, the bid accordingly, so that we can hopefully get where we need to be. I think the conversation really should be, and I would ask the committee for guidance and some direction here, would be, do we simply extend a one-year contract, given the fact that there may be some adjustments based upon future conversations around the regional agreement.
Can we ask, I mean, is there any, has there
We
been
could-
conversation with with Telestone?
Our provider, yes, there
Okay.
has been.
So are we asking him, based on what you've looked at in terms of busing, are we asking him to take away a bus, or are we going with exactly what we have, even though we have less amount of students that we have to account for on the bus? I just want to, I really want to know what the follow-through is with
Yep.
that. I'd like some closure to that. I think
Yep.
if we're going to go with them for a year, I think we need to aggressively ask for.
Well, but what he
Yep.
said a few minutes ago is we need to construct what we want them to bid on, whether it's for a year or 5, so we need to
Right.
say that,
Right.
not they
So
need to
one
say
But,
year
but
is
to
the-
Wendy's
is the
point,
bid.
Yeah.
we have had that discussion and we will continue to have that discussion because as I go through the existing routes, which I know have been in effect for a long time, we no longer have 2,400 students when those routes were constructed.
Right.
We have 1,800 that we know of currently. And so we are looking at those routes and then going back and saying, this is what we think we need, and bidding it accordingly.
So, because I know we're reaching the end of this whole process.
Yep.
I mean, we're in June next week, so this is my concern, is that we need to get it to him, we need to have that conversation with him, and we need to see it sometime next week. Like, we need to see this going in the direction, in a forward motion.
With any luck, my goal would be to have it to the committee June 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right, we're running out of calendar.
Correct.
And we've now gotten a lot behind us.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect that work would finish next week, and then we would have that to you hopefully by the end of the week.
I mean, realistically, what is the cost of one bus? Just roughly.
35 to 40,000, I believe.
35 to 40,000.
Right.
So
So if you could
that's a
save two
cost
buses,
saving.
that's 80,000.
That's 80,000, and that's something worth pushing for, I think.
Yes, I would agree.
We're talking one bus, and after getting those numbers, I mean, do we extend it for a year, looking at if he could give up those one or two buses? I mean, that's a deciding factor, and that is a large amount of money that could be
Absolutely.
spent on the textbooks that we're not getting, or the supplies. I mean, that's something that, I feel like we have this conversation on a normal basis, and I want to put it to rest. Whether
As
it's we
do
go
I.
with him for another year, whether
do
it's
I.
we take two buses out, it just needs to,
Come to finality.
yeah.
I agree.
Well,
I
can we
agree
do
loud and
both?
clear.
Gotcha.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm sure we have bus counts. I'm sure we have seat counts already.
I have them, yeah.
And then we can,
Yeah.
translate that into buses and then still just go with a one-year deal.
Right, but the only thing I'm saying, we're in June, so we need to wrap it up, and hopefully we get if we even get one bus, that's a savings of $35,000. In my opinion,
Yep.
that could be used for the textbooks, that could be used, I mean, we talked about the
We have
textbooks.
no shortage of
Kindergarten
Ways to
aides.
spend it.
kindergarten
Yeah.
aides.
A lot of things we could spend
The
it on.
LMC coordinator
Yeah.
that we're gonna get hammered on with our NEASC accreditation review, visit. We're gonna have another science teacher if we're gonna
Right.
continue our AP growth. We have a K-aides that we're desperate for to make those full-time.
Right, and
We
this
just
is
have a lot
something,
of needs.
and 2 buses will go a long way right
Yep.
now.
It will.
And I think we just need to wrap it up and,
Yep. It's my
But I
homework,
think
it's
we
my
need-
homework for June
Okay.
11th.
But I think we need to put our proposal together and give to him and say, bid on this.
Yes.
right,
We
But certainly the
right.
length is the key, and I know that, that'll be important.
What can you do with
That
this?
does make a lot of
Say,
sense.
this
For
is what we
one
like.
year with the big question mark is,
1
will
year.
it be realigned
Right.
for regional agreement at some point?
Yeah.
Even
Which
if,
is why it
even if
makes
this spills
sense.
into 2 years, so we do a series of 1 years until we
Yep.
get that
Do a
resolved.
1 year with a 1 year
Yeah.
renewal, absolutely, yep. Will do.
okay. June 11th,
June 11th.
okay.
Perfect.
Count on it.
Anything else we need to add?
I think that's everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we are moving on to school committee, and we're voting to approve our FY16 school committee schedule, which actually we had 2 meetings ago.
Yes.
So are there any other questions or modifications we need to make with anyone? Or do we want to
No, it's good.
vote as it's published?
I think the only 2 important dates that I wanted to call to the committee's attention were the hearing, the public hearing, and the adoption, which mirror this year, but will be far more in line with the 5-week earlier drop of the House 1 budget.
So it's
those
not in
two
the
dates.
February. Oh,
Yeah,
It's
so those
February
two dates are
20th.
okay. The February,
25th.
But we moved that up so
Hearing.
we could give our budget to the
To the
town
town.
right,
that much earlier, and
and I think it's worked.
it was a good relationship
Yep.
this year,
So, and we will have that state budget earlier. We'll have the dialogue starting in October. This year, we dropped everything in front of the finance committees in March, you know, so the discussion will happen earlier. So I think those dates are still okay.
Okay. So,
The only thing I would say is we keep saying that all the meetings will be held in this middle school, and last year we kept saying we'd try to move, we'd try to move.
We tried to travel,
and-
we never
and
did.
we never did, and I would like to say more than we'll try. You know, maybe if it's one a month or 2 meetings a year or whatever, but I think we need to go to Millville.
And we may,
Or the high
Go for it.
school, or
and we
wherever.
may have exciting news around that because we have some teachers and a couple of excited folks that we're looking to offer and build a studio at the high school so that we have that ability to offer courses around TV production, video production, editing, and that we might have that ability
To go there.
to do,
but I think we're already able to be live there.
oh, no, we can,
Oh, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But this would be a chance for the students to be able to broadcast it.
Okay.
That'd be nice.
And
Are you
able
thinking
to
being
do
in
that.
like Millville would bring more people to the meeting?
I don't know that it would
The
do
road-
anything,
thought
but I
possibly.
think
Yeah.
that,
But other things like, maybe we could even go to the library, you know, that might be just a different audience,
Yep.
you know.
Where would we go in Millville to be publicly, because right now we're on cable, so I'm just
they
curious.
can do it in the auditorium.
In the
at
auditorium.
Millville.
Can?
The elementary school.
Okay.
I don't think it would be on in Millville, in Blackstone, because right now we're not on in Millville.
Right,
Right.
We're only on in
Charter's
Blackstone.
not here, right? Doesn't Millville have charter?
charter.
Yeah.
It can be live streamed though.
It gets
to
sent
Blackstone.
on a disc a few days later to Millville.
Oh, can it be live streamed? Mm-hmm. It can be live.
It is.
Not in Millville,
Not in Millville.
But
Not
here
on
it can.
cable.
not from here to Millville.
Nope.
So Millville's always getting it later.
They can watch
Live,
it, they
but
can watch
live stream, you can get live stream on any computer, whether it's
Yes.
live.
Yes, on your computer,
Right.
but you're not getting the
You're not getting the
television
cable
broadcast.
access channel to,
Right.
right.
Okay. So do we want to dedicate certain meetings, or you?
Like to.
Okay. Go for it.
Oh, wow.
Do we want to pick them out of a hat, or?
Vacation.
So I think July and August,
Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah.
and then,
Let's do the first meeting of each month
on the road.
on the road.
Well, we'd have to coordinate schedules.
So we have to
You
check
know.
their calendars.
Well, we can, I mean, we're
This
just,
is
tonight,
true.
we're just approving the calendar
dates.
of dates.
But it does state on the bottom, all meetings will be
Yeah,
held.
so that's
at-
all I'm
Unless
trying to
Right.
change, is what it states on the bottom.
This is
I mean,
unless
I would be
otherwise
happy to
indicated.
just
We could just
say
take that right out and say
meeting-
we'll
yeah,
begin
Yeah,
at 7
meeting
PM.
sites will be, posted, whatever, however we do it.
So I make a motion to approve the calendar with the change of the bottom sentence saying all meetings will be held or will begin at 7 PM unless otherwise indicated. And then when we hit the road, we will announce
Just-
where we
yeah.
are.
Okay. So motion made by Wendy, is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Georgette, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Unanimous? Thank you. Lease agreements, we did get copies of them. I don't know what the action required is though, because I know there was discussion about, they're both current, and we weren't requesting a change. We had requested them
And-
to verify our responsibility, our financial.
Right, and I think council is working on, next Monday and Tuesday, the wording, especially, well, certainly
Okay.
around both the Millville playground as well as the
Right.
warrant article that was passed Tuesday, and the wording, and I think Mr. Wozniak really gave us a lot of that last meeting, which is that the towns would be responsible for the maintenance, the insurance, and the upkeep of those.
But we're not looking to modify our lease, we're
No.
going to make the motion as
Addendum.
an addendum.
As an addendum, and that we should probably have Monday, Tuesday of next week.
But I don't know if anyone had a chance to look at the lease. It basically states that we.
Should we hold this maybe till next one?
Oh, yeah, I think what we were looking for, I'll just point it out, is our financial responsibility is
And
up to
that's what-
$20,000. So that's why we feel it's important on the new,
But does that refer strictly to the
Items.
buildings?
That refers to buildings. I'm
Buildings.
reading this and I'm like, but it
But-
only
So we want
talks
to make
about
sure
buildings.
that council delineates that for
what
specifically the
he's
playground
looking
and the irrigation system in the fields.
and then next is vote to approve Parks and Rec warrant. Yeah. If you want.
At the town meeting, the article that was voted on was Article 6, that the town would vote to raise or appropriate $30,000 for the design, construction, and installation of an irrigation system for the soccer complex at AFM JFK. And it was addended to pending approval from the school committee. And I think that speaks to getting the wording that says that the town would be responsible for all maintenance, all future maintenance, and upkeep and insurance. And so council, as soon as we have that, I can get that to the committee and we can vote it on the 11th.
So that's happening on the 11th too?
Right, because
That warrant?
I think to vote the approval now, to assent now without
Right,
the
without the
document,
documentation.
without the wording wouldn't help, so.
Will the lease, just going back to the lease, will that need to be updated again, if there's a change in the regional agreement? For those two leases?
I would expect at least that would be a part of the conversation. Because they're both enforced now for 81 years each.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a
Actually, we
question to
just
ask
signed
him
it.
though, because all it does is give permission for BMR to so that wouldn't,
We may just have legal.
that wouldn't change.
Sure.
Yeah, I would just have him look at that. Because it doesn't say only Blackstone residents or only Millville, I mean, it just gives the school district, makes them the leasee.
Right.
And we would still be the leasee.
Okay, so June 11th.
Okay. 6/11.
The well's dry. You all right?
No. Sorry. Next item is members participating in health insurance. So in the packet is the Mass General Law, as broken down by the district council for us. And I also asked Alan to include the cost for the health coverage. So I guess I'll just open it up for discussion on.
Over here, as noted, and I discussed this earlier with the chair, I object to even bringing this up. There's only one person on this committee that's made a request for this benefit. And that request had initially been acted on, not acted on, and now we've hindsighted with this less than 24 hours later. I think it's inappropriate. I think this is an inappropriate forum to discuss this. I note for the committee that 2 prior members of this committee and 1 very recently received this benefit. De facto, meaning that this committee has interpreted may, meaning do, and this decision to go forward exclusively and unilaterally without this matter being fully legally explored by council, as well as the school superintendent, is inappropriate, early, and arbitrary and capricious. And I'd object to even discussing this matter any further. And at this point, I would move for this matter to be withdrawn from the floor and from the agenda.
Are you making a motion?
That was a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that for a point of discussion.
Okay.
So can we discuss this a little further?
Discuss removing it?
Well, just
Yes.
discuss what this entails. I'll think a little bit. I think we need a little more.
It's not, I think this is being miscommunicated a little bit. This is something that has been brought to our attention that is potentially a benefit for an elected member. Regardless if anyone is requesting it or not, that's not what we're voting on tonight. We're voting on whether this committee accepts this Mass General Law as written, which basically exempts the elected official from meeting the 20-hour minimum. Regardless if anyone is requesting or not, I think now that it's been brought to our attention that it is something out there, I think it's important that we as a committee know where we stand on it. And I think we do have legal opinion, which everyone has included in their packet, on where we stand as making that decision. Because again, it's not about one person requesting or not, it's whether we as a committee are going to follow this policy or create our own. So, like I said, regardless if anyone is requesting it or not, I still think it's something now that it's brought out there in a public, at a public point of information, because I didn't know it existed. I think we need to know where we stand as a committee, whether we say that it's a yearly vote or whether we incorporate it as our policy. I think it's just important because of the financial part attached to it. So it's not something, I mean, it clearly states that the statute provides the persons elected by popular vote may be considered eligible employees during the entire term for which they were elected, regardless of the number of hours devoted to the service of the government unit. The words may be considered are crucial as they imply that someone or somebody has to make a decision and consider them eligible employees. Mass General Law 32B, Section 2 also provides a determination by the appropriate public authority that a person is eligible for participating in the plan of insurance shall be final. In our legal counsel's opinion, that is, in this instance, the appropriate public authority to make such a decision is this committee. The committee has two options, and that is to vote to consider members of the committee elected by popular vote eligible employees, or to vote not to consider members of the committee elected by popular vote eligible employees. So it's cut and dry.
Well, I disagree with that characterization. It's far from cut and dry. Two prior members of this committee have...
But prior practice does not make it a policy. And we went through that last year.
That is not what that opinion says. That is not what that opinion says, so don't misconstrue that opinion. That's not what it says. That's not what the law says. Your decision tonight, if you decide to circumvent proper procedural authority and go ahead and take this vote, it is inappropriate, and it's just been brought to your attention. I'm curious as to how it was brought to your attention. As far as I know, I have learned that information that would have been known to very few has been brought to the attention of another public official by an individual not a member of this committee, not a member of the school administration, and not a member of the town of Blackstone administration. And I'm just curious as to how it would have been brought to your attention without having discussed it with me and gone ahead and requested an opinion of legal counsel. We had asked that this matter be tabled until counsel had an opportunity to view the matter fully. Your statement is factually incorrect. It's not cut and dry. Certainly not. And as a matter, no, it's not.
Section 2 is
well,
cut and dry.
do you understand that you had two prior school committee members? This committee has already acted in a de facto fashion. You are circumventing the conduct of this committee over a course of not just years but decades. And you're going to do it based upon one request for this benefit. And you're talking about because it's financial, you want to you want to ask every member of this committee to grab a
Excuse
clerk?
me, but point of order, there's a motion on the floor of whether or not we should even consider this discussion. The discussion we're doing right now does not address whether or not we should do something with this today.
Fine, let's vote.
So it doesn't. So the discussion we need to be having is whether or not we have enough information in front of us to consider something today or to withdraw as the motion is requesting. So we need to keep our discussion to whether or not we should consider this. And I, for one, believe I have some good information in front of me, but I don't believe I have all the information in front of me. And that other piece of information that I think is important is whether or not people have had received this benefit before, I see it as a benefit, who served on the school committee, and knowing that, and if any other previous school committee had made a motion. Now, I have some very strong opinions one way or the other, and I hope to have an opportunity to present them, but I don't think that's the motion that's on the floor.
So I will point out one other instance that we've already come across in our time here, and I understand you were not here, but last year we had a room full of retirees in front of us that past practice was giving survivor benefits to a employee's spouse. And we had to re-vote on it because it could not be found, even though it was past practice, and we had legal in here, we had Dr. Davis in here, letting us know where we stood. And it was important to make sure we either said yes as a committee or not. And whatever happened in the past does not mean that it was policy.
I think this is as a point of order, I think this is exactly what you stopped me from discussing.
I was answering her question.
Well, you weren't, she didn't ask a question. What she was doing was she was merely making a point of order. So she wasn't asking a question. Her point of order was with respect to the very issues you just discussed. So I would just move that we move on, act on my motion, which is at this point, just to table this until it can be further investigation, determinations made as to what the legal ramifications are of such a vote and determination. And that would be it.
Okay. So is there any other discussion?
Well, I'd like to amend his motion to put a particular date on it, because I don't want to say just table it and then 2 years from now.
Right.
So I would like to gather information anybody believes is pertinent and table this until our next meeting.
That'd be June 11th.
June 11th.
Right. Okay. Do you need a second for that?
Yes,
The
you do.
amendment?
I'll second
And then
that.
you need to vote on that, and then you need to vote on the.
No, Jane, I will amend my motion to table it until the June 11th, 2015 meeting, and at that point to come forward with respect to that issue.
Then you don't need to vote on that.
Right.
Okay. Any other conversation, questions?
So I have one question.
Yes.
So what is the clarity that we're looking for? We're looking for past, we're looking for how many people, I'm just looking for what the clarity is.
I don't care if people have done it before.
Okay.
I want to know if the school committee had voted on whether or not they could. In other words, did this A or B, one or two, N or C, did this vote get taken before? That's the piece I'm
That's the clarity?
missing. That's
Well,
the
I think
clarity.
there's some additional clarity. I think there's clarity with regard to the legal standard of the de facto action in the past. So I think that if there's legal case law and standards for that, I think you need to know that as well. So I don't think it's that cut and dry, but I think that's a point for a discussion on June 11th.
And I also want to make a point that this committee consisting of who's on this committee right now has not made that, any decision like that yet.
No.
So I think I need to make that clear, that this committee that's sitting here right now has not made that decision. So I agree with both points, but I just want to make it very clear that this committee has not made that motion.
So what information do we need for the 11th then?
Well, because we need to know, are we making a motion or amending a previous motion?
Yeah. Okay. And you said this has been done in the past?
It has been done with two individuals, at least that we're aware of. I believe it's actually more like 6.
Okay. And can we?
From 1960, when did this district begin, 67?
I was actually told by Harold that in the past 40 years since we've been regionalized, it's two members.
One within the
that
last 10
participated.
years. One actually within the last 5 years.
They were not on it in the last 5 years. They may have been on the committee, but.
Then in a broader sense, is this done in any other districts in the state?
Actually, it's an elected official
Yeah.
law. Blackstone allows it, Millville does not.
Okay.
So, just to stay local,
Okay.
there's your answer for.
Good enough.
So we are voting on,
Tabling to the 11th.
okay. And I think we'll do, through roll call or just by hand, just to, or do we want to? Okay, so all those in favor, please,
Of tabling this until June
of
11th.
tabling until June 11th. So, and anyone saying no? So unanimous, and we will continue on June 11th.
Could I just ask one thing? Because I'm very concerned about the open meeting laws and communications as between school committee members without proper due notice. If there is any information of the school members or school committee members that they think is particularly pertinent to this issue, I'm assuming we could just simply put it through the superintendent, Mr. Himmelberger, and he could in turn
I think it would come in our packet.
disseminate it to the membership.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, and report of the assistant superintendent.
Yes, just a couple quick things about professional development. There was a sheet in your packet looking at this past year's expenses for professional development and where it came out of the grants. One thing that I will point out that Mr. Hillenberger made mention to, the kindergarten grant looks like it is not going to be funded by the state. And the RTT grant, the Race to the Top grant, is finishing this year. And if you look back at the grants page, that's about $89,000 we will not have available to us this year. So I don't know if anybody had any questions on that first piece. You see
Is there any other grants that we can chase for that? You know, it may not be necessarily the Race to the Top grant or the K grant, but is there any other ones that we haven't looked at yet that can kind of
We
offset
look
that
at everything that
89?
comes out. The problem is we don't qualify
We
for
don't
much.
qualify.
We did manage to get another grant as part of the special ed
Mm-hmm.
grant for co-teaching this past year, $3,000, $4,000 additional. But that was the first one we've gotten in a long time. It was not a local cultural council sort of.
What is
sort of
the
thing.
Title II or?
Title IIA is the professional development grant,
But
teacher
that
improvement grant.
goes to both Blackstone and Millville, not like
Yep.
Title I stays with Blackstone?
No, that goes to teachers across the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, and then looking at professional development for next year, we are continuing with the Teachers for Teachers, the literacy program. We are going to be bringing it down through K1 with the literacy piece. We did make the decision not to bring in the writing. That was kind of twofold. One was additional cost. The other is we are looking at bringing in a math program next year, and that's an awful lot of balls in the air in one. So we're hoping that in the next cycle we'll be able to bring the writing piece in on top of the literacy, the reading piece.
When do you think you'll make a decision on the math?
I actually just sent an email out, again, sharing the rubric, sharing with the people that have piloted, just so they would have ease of access to getting to it, but the guiding principles of effective mathematics are in the first part of the frameworks from the state. Ask them to read through that, and then to use the rubrics, give us, one for each program, and to have it back in my office by end of day on the 4th of June. So, officially the pilot, we're going to be starting collecting information. I need to set up dates to talk, have some chats after that. Once I want to get the rubrics, compile the results, share that with them, and then ask questions, follow-up questions based on that. I kind of assume, based on some of the feedback, that they will continue working out of some of these books while we have them. But that's the plan. The plan is to start collecting information in June 4th, hopefully, get it collated and start meeting the week after, so that by the end of that week, what's that, the 12th, or early the next week, we'll have some sort of decision as to which program to go with. Okay? Part of our professional development next year will be math, be training in a new elementary math program. And that's usually, it's going to be negotiated as part of the purchase price of the new math curriculum. Another major emphasis will be our continue to work on the curriculum design, understanding by design. And I had hoped in the budget to be able to bring in somebody from the outside, but looks like I will be the understanding by design guy, which is good and bad. It is a passion of mine, something I'm very good at, but it also doesn't necessarily allow me to go around and monitor professional development days as much as I would like to. So, but we'll see about that. Fourth thing, co-teaching, and a major part of that is coming out of that SPED grant. That is actually going to happen Monday, August 24th here in the district, and we're getting volunteers at each grade level to start that inclusion improvement method of delivering instruction and content to our special needs students in the regular classroom.
So what will our co-teaching model look like next
And will they be
school year?
paid if they come in on the 24th?
The PD.
They are going to come in for that one, yes.
Is that through elementary all the way through to middle school, or is that?
It's all the way up through the high school.
So
K
to 12.
it's a little lighter at the high school because,
Right,
I mean,
right.
honestly, you really need to start it vigorously in K1, 2, so that we don't have kids coming out into a separate setting. And for fear of sounding offensive to special ed teachers, they're instructional specialists, not necessarily content specialists. Taking special ed kids out of the regular classroom into side groups, they don't have models, and they tend not to be working at standard. And that becomes worse as time goes on. So the trick is to try to keep them in the regular classroom or along with the regular classroom as much as possible.
Hope is that you'll have in each grade or with the testing grades, you would have a co-teaching model of some sort, because there's so many different kinds.
We will start with one classroom, one set of teachers working together at each grade level, and then hopefully next year expand that to 2 classrooms where needed, so that we have a group of people. So it's not, I mean, I don't want, because it is hard work, and there's, different, I mean, you need to build a relationship with the co-teaching, but you also, people can kind of get burnt out from doing it for long periods of time. So it's good to have the ability to change, so that, and this is going to be a process. It's not something, we're not going to drop pixie dust in 1 year, and it's not going to be perfect. It takes 2 to 3 years to get your co-teaching up to a certain level, and we need to train a wide group of people in order to do that.
You don't have that ability in Millville. If you only have one class, you only have one class.
That's another topic to bring up, yes. Yep. Again, programming and that piece of, scale of size is an important factor. If you have a good collection of teachers and students, you have flexibility and ability to do different things in the same grade level at the same time. Also this summer, the AP training is happening as part of the MIMSI grant. There's a good example of a grant that we did go out and get this year. We have teachers both at, mainly at the high school, but we're also getting some middle school teachers to take part in the pre-AP training. And pre-AP training is not an elitist sort of thing. It's about setting the criteria and the instructional standards at the middle school so that all students have access to taking college level coursework. So we're working at both. We're going to have a few slots to be able to do that and hopefully continue that going forward. And that's being funded through the MIMSI grant. And then we are also going to be doing some more Google Leader training, another day with our Google Leaders this summer as well, the 25th. I want to say the 25th of August, that Tuesday. That week before school comes back, we'll be very busy. But that, and the focus on that is getting a little more skills in certain areas. The Google Leaders have asked for specific training, and also getting some things set up for our PD days coming in October and in January.
So the Google Leaders, is that going to be middle school? Is that going to be?
That is, there are Google Leaders in each school across the district. We did 2 days of training, February? Voluntary, yep, and this is also voluntary.
Is that Osiris running those?
No, we have a trainer, Google certified teacher from Hopkinton, who's going to be coming in with us.
It's terrific.
Yeah, she's wonderful. Yep.
And embraced by a wide variety of teachers.
Right.
It really has been gratifying.
Yep. Okay,
Thank
and
you.
then just to preview for the June 11th meeting, I'll put my plug in now. We are working vigorously on our summer programming, our reading and math summer work. And, you know, we have a good start on the reading. I was kind of debating whether to have the principals present today, but the math is still kind of, because that's new, is still kind of a work in progress, so that we will be back with more of that information for your approval of the summer program. But we need to, and it'll probably take some different forms first time through, but that's okay. And then we'll come back and reassess for year two. But the idea is to get our kids actively mentally engaged and keeping the skills of this up.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our last public forum. No? We appreciate you staying for the whole meeting. We apparently have some technical difficulties with our cameras, so you're the only one viewing this meeting. And school committee forum. I will go last, so we'll start from the bottom. Tara, do you have anything?
I wasn't prepared to go first. Just a quick shout out to the flamingos you may have seen around town. It's the Hartnett Middle School PTO fundraiser, so feel free to join the fun, send a flock.
Where do they get the information?
I have it, it's on Facebook right now, but this pretty much HMS here at the middle school. You can get the forums, but they're on Facebook. I can email it.
Yeah, can you email me one?
Can they email you if they
Yeah,
don't
if you
have
want to
the-
email me.
And I'll just put it out there, I've already been flocked,
Sure,
so you do not
absolutely.
have to flock me.
Oh, well.
It wasn't me, though, it was one of my children.
There's no like phone number.
Yeah.
There's not, and if you do see a sign on the back of them, there are order forms in the sleeves, so if you want to pull
Oh.
over and grab
Jump
one.
out in someone's yard?
So not only are we getting, neighbors looking at us yelling, "Hey, what are you doing out there?" You'll be getting yelled at for grabbing forms out of the
I can honestly say it's my kids love it. They love driving by and they love seeing the flamingos. And they say, "When is Oz coming?" I'm like, I don't know.
I missed grabbing the form at the school, and
this-
I got in trouble for missing.
This isn't on television, right? This isn't on television
No,
right
it is
now?
not. It's going to be, though, we're filming.
Well, it doesn't really matter, because, no, I want to do it for my wife's birthday, so that's why I was gonna put it out there. Her
$5.
birthday's
We can
in-
do a special date.
Double the flamingo.
That's it, double the flamingos, so that's why I want to do it for.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Will you decorate them with party hats? Just curious.
For another $5. I did put balloons on one last year for a family,
Very
a
cute.
friend that we flocked. So I ran out and I tied balloons. So it was fun.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Looking forward to next week. Next week's biggest week of the year as far as I'm concerned. Thursday the 4th, I don't think Griffin mentioned this, but the awards night. If you've never been to one of those, definitely go. It's great to see. It's neat to see the, a couple years ago I sat in front of the teachers, and the teachers didn't know who the awards were until they were announced, and here they're going, yes, oh yes, oh he's a great kid, and it was really neat to see. And obviously the next night's Friday the, Friday the 5th, the graduation. That's at 6 o'clock, I believe, right? So, and I think we've only had indoors once, so hopefully the weather will hold out again. But and actually, get on my soapbox a little bit. Now that we have the dates for all the meetings for next year, I want to continue what Brian has been banging the drum for a long time, is having some kind of presentation at every single meeting throughout the year. I think now that we have the dates in hand, I think we really need to kind of turn it on some of the principals that were here. Going through the budget process the last several months, one thing that gets glossed over a lot, I think other people at this table know it, but all the kids that we're losing, that are leaking out the side to other districts, we really, really need to highlight what we do well. And that would start with things like, in the past, we've had the kids who scored perfect scores on the MCAS. They came here one night, and we recognized them, gave them the certificate with their parents. So I think recognition of perfect MCAS or PARC or whatever it turns out to be.
SAT.
Yeah, I say, Griffin with his 800 on the scores. AP exams, kids who got, so maybe we'd have like a recognition night with MCAS and PARC and things like that.
I remember seeing that in the past.
Yeah, that's really powerful to get all the parents here, and usually have a proud teacher as well. But I think if we continuously roll those type of things out there, that would be great. Other things, I've been on the committee for a while, kind of a criticism. Did we have any presentations by any of the class officers this year?
Nope.
Not one. Not one. I think we should have a presentation by the freshman, sophomore, junior class officers, beginning of the year, mid-year, end of the year. Just what they're doing, just so we get to know their faces a little bit. You know, it's great to see Griffin and Eric, but they can't carry the ball for everybody. They really can't. I mean, they pretty much do, if you know their history. There's not one thing they're not involved in, but similar things, sports. How about if we had the, you know, the team captains come out and give a presentation? The coaches, things like that. Clubs. You know, the trips, Nature's Classroom, New York, Washington, D.C. Things. I think if we start to make a list like that, we would easily fill our calendar. Instead of the other way around. I think, oh my gosh, what are we going to fill? We have more than enough to fill these dates. So I think if we can just sort of flip that around and start filling them in, we would have people there all the time. And particularly if we take it on the road, you know, we would, you know, invite the selectmen, boards, you know, finance committees. They would see, look at what we're doing here. This is what we really need to do. So I think, also, I heard through the grapevine, Youth News and World Report. Did we get some good news about our high school? Have we publicized that?
We are in the process of publicizing it.
Okay.
I'd like to validate with U.S. News and World Report.
Got it.
But
Okay.
it's pretty startling validation.
Good, okay. At some point. So again, I think now that we have a calendar, let's start filling it up. So.
After these two, I got, well, you know, on top of that, I read through this every time I get it, and the only time I get it is when I'm here. And I think it's, you know, it's a pretty interesting thing to get, and I'm just curious as to why it's not sent off to, you know, local variety stores and the like, so it's just generally available to the public, or even posted. It's not posted online.
It's on the counter in the library, isn't it?
It's on the counter, but, I mean...
We can certainly expand the distribution.
I just am wondering, because there's some interesting stuff in here, and it actually kind of markets and kind of pitches everything that you were just saying, you know, in terms of the, you know, not to mention, you know, the Pony Express, I love these puzzles. This is, I mean, this all kind of contains what it is that, you know, you're kind of pushing to prom, and there's really no, I mean, what soccer call doesn't cover us anymore. The, you know,
Enlightener.
the, what?
The Enlightener.
I'm talking about, no,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, you can't say anything nice. No. So, but no, the Gazette,
Yep.
the Call, the Milford Daily News certainly doesn't come near either of our towns. You know, I once in a while you get, you know, throw us a bone. I mean, we do something bad, and, you know, we've got news crews with, you know, antennas sticking up. Full coverage. So I just think that it's important to get something like this out. And I concur. I think that's important to take, and I do believe it in Millville. It's important to get it out there too. I think you got to take the show on the road. I'm concerned as to why Millville doesn't get the broadcast for this. I thought this whole school was already set up to televise everywhere. When I became a member of this town, my understanding when we voted for this school was that one of the marketing points was that this school is going to have the technology and capacity to transmit these meetings.
Did 10 years ago.
To everyone. What's that?
But we actually weren't even live until 3 years ago.
I know. Well, I always had an issue with that.
Yeah.
I always had an issue with that because it gave the impression that what you folks were doing in the school committee, not you folks, but what the school committee was doing was intentionally secretive. And it wasn't getting out there, and it was intentional, and it was being withheld because of the money and because of what we were told when we were voting for this school. So I think it's important that if, you know, somehow Millville, you know, why doesn't Charter...
We have the station, so I just don't know why
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't go live.
played, they'll make a disc and they send it, so they'll see it next Monday.
No.
And they run it
But
continuously.
there's something to be said for seeing something live and making your own opinions versus watching something after you heard what happened and then watching it with your rose-colored
At the coffee
glasses
shop.
or-
And then you're probably hearing it wrong, so you're not going to bother because it's more interesting when somebody gives it a spin, you know? It's much
And
more...
not that we're watched by millions, I don't even, believe that, but, you know, if we're
Well,
watched by one or
The
two.
Blackstone Town Meeting was evidence of who doesn't watch. It's like, oh, I didn't know anything about this. It's like, well, you know, I took time away from my family, my work, for 13 Finance Committee meetings, and you don't know what we're talking about, really? I mean, it feels, it's disheartening. After all those hours and hours, and even sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night, you're here, you're talking about the budget, the school committee comes, all these committees come in. So I don't know what the solution is, but a couple of things is that Blackstone does have the ability in their budget to outfit the cable truck or the folks for mobile type broadcasts.
Yep.
They have enough funding to do that, and I understand they're gonna do that as well, right?
Yep, we have reached out to Blackstone Cable
Yep.
and Comcast. I think we've repaired whatever was broken in the relationships in the past, and we are in a good spot to move forward.
Because they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in that account.
Yep.
Hundreds of thousands. And according to Paul, it won't cost hundreds of thousands. It won't even cost 100. It's like $10,000, $15,000 to outfit a van to go to like the football games, to go to like the baseball games, the softball games, the soccer games. And right now, we always see the band, which is a great thing, don't get me wrong, but it'd be nice to see other things, even some of the activity clubs that go on here.
We do see them in Millville. I don't know, we've had, like, the homecoming game, football.
It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
And
But it's
Paul
not
Jacobs-
live.
Justin's
Yeah,
doing a
it's
great
not
job.
live.
It's, right,
But
it's,
Paul Jacobs is going to film graduation
Yes.
for the first time in a few
in
years.
Blackstone, you can watch it. You can't watch it in Millville.
Well, he
But
can do-
Jesse's also going to do a live stream.
Yeah, he does live stream,
Yes.
yeah. So that'll be,
We're moving there in the right direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
They did have the Mr. BMR on cable.
Oh, that was it, too.
I saw my son there. That's why I wasn't here last time.
Did he win?
Win? They're all winners.
They
They're all
are.
winners.
Just for getting up there.
Yeah.
All right. Georgette?
I just want to say that I went to my first senior parade last Friday, and the kids did a great job. It was really good. They had a nice day. I want them to have fun Monday on their class trip. Wednesday's their senior banquet at River Falls, so I hope they have fun and be safe. And then see everybody Thursday night at the awards banquet. I mean, the awards, banquet, and then Friday night at graduation.
Yes.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Eisenberg on another wonderful Millville Mile. And I do think,
Best job in the district.
Jesse, I don't know, but made a really cute video of it.
Yes.
So,
I've seen you.
I think we are getting more things out there. But I know that's the unique Millville event, so it was kind of nice to see that they had a beautiful day and it went well. And then one thing I would like to say is that I got the sense just from tonight that perhaps this discussion around the June 11th topic of interpreting Massachusetts law might get personal and might get heated, and I hope that we would all remember that we are representatives of our community, elected by people in our community, and as such, we need to take as much emotion out of it as we can. So I hope when we approach that discussion on June 11th, we'll do so from an educated standpoint and not emotional.
Okay. Thank you. I do have a few things too. The superintendent evaluation workshop, we need to set a date. And I have a few dates from Glenn Kuchar that he's available to come to us. He said it's about 90 minutes. And I asked him for Thursdays in between our meetings or a Saturday morning. So I don't know. I have Thursday, June 25th. It would be a 6 p.m. or Saturday, June 20th, and we could basically choose the time. But I think we could start with those two dates. He would like me to call him tomorrow if we can set a date. That way he can put us on the calendar. I did already check with
more
Bill.
towards Thursdays.
Thursday is
Saturdays.
better. 18th
Where would it be?
18th was an option too, but
The
I think
25th is the 8th grade farewell dance here. So we might not want to have it here.
What time is that at?
I believe it's at 6.
Okay.
maybe we could do it in Millville. Just saying. It's a workshop, though. It's not.
It's not.
It's not a public meeting, but we have options on
Okay.
where we could.
Just so you know, just
Yeah.
if that's going on here, it might not be the best
Um,
location.
Thursday, June 18th was also an option too, but
Not for me, but.
otherwise we're gonna get into July. Or if there's another, so those are the dates that he and I put back and forth. But if a Wednesday's better, like Wednesday I'm in July all of a sudden.
I would
Wednesday the
mind
24th?
Going the 25th, because it gives us a little break, and we're not going every Wednesday.
So we have a meeting the 4th, and we actually don't,
We have a meeting.
I mean, the 11th.
11th.
We don't
And then we
have,
don't meet till
Meeting the
like
25th.
July 13th, so the 25th is fine with me.
will that interfere with you for, are you running that?
Sounds good.
No, I'm not. It's all school. It's just getting her out the door.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
We have what? We have a
I
meeting?
saw,
Yeah.
Me too.
I saw a sign though, it said no limo.
Just the 11th.
Right, no limos. Yeah, so someone will have to be driving.
Or what about Wednesday the 24th?
We're supposed to be in school by then.
Just
We have a meeting on the.
hypothetically, is a Wednesday?
Wednesday,
No.
the 24th?
Yeah.
It's not
Is
good
that
for me,
better?
but if anyone else can make it, that's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
I can do
It's
the
not good for
24th.
you?
I have Red Sox tickets, so.
Oh. Wednesday the 17th?
Well, what's wrong with Thursday, the 25th?
Other than the dance.
Other than, is it something that you're
Wednesday, the
involved in?
24th is the last school committee meeting.
What?
There was a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, the 24th.
Yeah, I had that
Oh.
on here.
Yeah.
Oh, there is?
Could we
Yeah.
do it
Why?
early?
I mean, you can change it, but that was scheduled.
Why is it on Wednesday?
I don't know, you guys made it.
I don't know.
That's right, you
I
weren't
think,
even here.
Wasn't even
I think
Why
because
did
it
you
do it?
conflicted with the fifth grade. There's a
Fifth grade.
fifth grade, there's a fifth grade, or there's the
Eighth
eighth
grade.
grade dance, people wanted to move it.
Maybe.
So we already knew that.
Yeah, it was on Thursday, we moved it to Wednesday, because there was, either there was the eighth grade or one of the other
Can we
events.
have- Can we cancel the meeting and make it a workshop instead?
You can do anything you want.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
That's Wednesday,
Why don't we do
but
that?
that's not good for Steve.
That's not good for Steve, he'll be,
Steve needs to participate in the
I've been through the
evaluation.
superintendent thing before.
Yeah. It is new, though. Have you been through the training?
The new one?
It is new,
With Glenn Kuchar?
Yeah.
No, we've never. been
because we
through it.
haven't done it yet.
It's
as a
been
committee.
new since we've been on the committee and we haven't had it.
You've done evaluations, is what you're
It's,
saying.
it's the same,
Different
Okay.
rubric, similar, but a couple
Yeah.
of
So
wrinkles.
Wednesday, June 24th, I do need to verify with him that he's available, but do we want to tentatively say?
it's 90 minutes,
He
right?
said it was 90 minutes. So technically, if we could get here, if we said, okay, never mind.
No, it's your meeting.
I don't know if we need a meeting.
Oh, give him the dates and see what he can do.
Okay.
You know.
All right, so
24th.
Wednesday, the 24th, 6 PM. Is 6 PM okay? Or do we want to do 7?
6.
6? Okay. Yeah. And I just, the only other thing I wanted to say was thank you for everyone that did come to both town meetings and got us to a much earlier date and knowing where we stand this year.
Huge.
As upsetting as it was that we weren't able to fund what we actually needed, it's still good that we are, moving forward in May and not on June 30th. So thank you for that. And upcoming meetings, Thursday, June 11th. And if you have any requests for that, you can certainly email them to me. And otherwise, we are adjourned. A motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by made by Wendy, seconded by Tara. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you have
I
anything to
banged it
say,
for
because
last
it
time.
didn't go to you?
Hey, Wendy. Off.